any questions about exactly how to tweak certain parts of the path, you can refer back to that video that I created that shows you exactly how to adjust the different path areas and all of that. So now you notice all that I'm doing is just fine-tuning, adding some slight curves where they're needed, fine-tuning the position of the points, and we can zoom in as far as we need to get those positions perfect. And I think we can probably delete a couple of these anchor points here. So really, it just ultimately comes down to taking a little bit of time. But in the grand scheme of things, we're really not spending a huge amount of time to accomplish something that using any other method here in Photoshop would take us a lot longer, trust me. Okay, we're actually in pretty good shape. Just bring that up here a little bit. And I need to reposition that just a little bit there. And so here's what I'm doing. I am repositioning the points, and then where it's needed, I'm using the convert point tool to convert the drawn points into curves so that it'll fit the curve of the camera where that's necessary. So you can see, like right there, there's a bit of a curve around, so I can just choose the convert point tool and add a curve. And believe it or not, we're actually almost done. All right, and so we'll move this here. And actually, we probably don't need all of these anchor points. We can get rid of this one and that one, and then just use the center one to control the curve around the button here. And we need to reposition that. Kind of move that in there. And we actually, I just noticed, probably should add another point or two right in there. That way we can anchor this first part here and then bring the second one in like so. Just form fit that in. I'm actually going to add another point in there. It's amazing how just as quickly as we clicked around it the first time, once you're zoomed in, you can really see where additional adjustments are needed sometimes. Okay. All right, so I think we're done there. So now the moment of truth. And what we're going to do is right mouse click. And we have a couple choices. We can create a mask and go in and use the mask to fine tune it even more. Or we can just make a selection. And I'm going to go with a feather radius of 1 just because it makes sense. And then I'm going to copy, Control C, paste, Control V. And we have our silhouetted camera. Now, remember before how we did the test with adding a layer and filling the black? So not bad, right? Now, one more thing that we can do, and this is just kind of an aside, but in some cases you may actually run into this problem. You'll notice how because this image was shot in nature, some of the camera has a green cast to it. Well, we can actually correct that pretty easily just by having the black selected, choose the mode, make sure that the mode is set to color, and then we can just go in and paint. You want to make sure the opacity is up to 100%. And then what we're going to do is just shift the color. So you can see essentially what it's doing is it's removing the green and replacing it with the black. Now there's some scenarios where this may not work as effectively or where you have to maybe have to be a little bit more careful. In this case, it's pretty straightforward for us because we're dealing with levels of gray in the camera itself. So that makes it fairly easy to remove all of that extra green tinting that we ended up with because the photograph was shot outside. Just come down here. Now you'll notice like in this area right here we have red, so I'm going to want to be careful not to affect that area, or just to be very cautious around the red so that it doesn't remove that. And I think we'll just adjust that there slightly. The lenses I'll leave the way they are because that kind of looks cool. Just do this whole thing here. And of course the good news is that you could really tint this to whatever you choose. Like if you want to have a slightly blue cast to the black, you could very easily do that. Just very subtle, so that if I go in and paint, You notice how it's just slightly different. It has a slight blue cast to it. So you can see the difference. Okay, so it really depends on the look that you want to achieve from your image. Excuse me, and the type of image that you're working with. Oh, you know, oh gosh, that's funny. There's another thing that you want to pay attention to. I'm glad that I made that mistake actually. And that is that whenever you're painting in the color, if there's transparency, it'll show up. So you want to make sure that you lock the layer. Okay, so what we're going to do is remove all of our painting, and I'm going to go through it again real quick. Lock the layer, and now let's just, to save time, make a bigger brush. So now it won't paint over the background because the layer is locked. So you definitely want to pay attention to that. Holy cow. But I'm glad that that happened so that you can see just how careful you need to be with some of this. And we're just going to forget the red that was there before. And actually, let's just do some of this area here too. Okay, so that's much better. So now we have our silhouetted camera, and it's very, very clean looking.